U.S. airlines are cutting about 4% of flights across 40 major airports due to safety concerns that are tied to the ongoing government shutdown. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says that the reductions could increase to as much as 10% as early as next week if the shutdown continues. And joining me now is Washington Stand reporter Casey Harper. Casey, let's start with this issue. What's going on with all these flight delays and the slowdowns, cancellations? What's the latest we have?
Yeah, Jody, it doesn't look good. As you said, U.S. airlines are slashing flights as this record-long government shutdown means fewer air traffic controllers and TSA agents who are willing to work. And who can blame them? They're not getting paid. So starting today, about 850 flights from American, Delta, Southwest, and United are being canceled. Here's what Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said earlier today.
Today is the first day, 4% reduction. 4 days later, another 2%. 2 days after that, 2%, and then 2% on. And what I'm hoping to do is, again, take the pressure and more risk out of the system. I'm trying to minimize the risk through this government shutdown and bring us to a matrix that matches what we had before the shutdown.
So that means the cuts could rise to 6% on Tuesday and 10% by next week if the shutdown continues. As you know, we head into the Thanksgiving holiday. So officials are pointing to safety concerns, which include stress controllers and even some incidents, Jody, of planes not maintaining the proper distance of separation. However, airlines are saying most passengers are being rebooked quickly, but disruptions are expected to get worse. The shutdown has forced 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 TSA workers to work without pay if they're willing to work at all. Meanwhile, the FAA is delaying flights and even restricting space launches to manage these staff shortages. At the same time, we're seeing other effects. The Trump administration has asked a federal appeals court to block a judge's order that required full November food stamp payments be made to 42 million Americans. The DOJ is arguing, hey, only Congress can authorize federal spending, which leaves millions of low-income households with partial SNAP benefits amid the shutdown.
So, Casey, what's happening over in the Senate? Are lawmakers there responding to the air travel chaos? Are they really working to try to bring an end to this government shutdown?
Well, Jody, they're working on it, but they're not making any progress, at least yet, and they may go through the weekend, as we're now on day 38. In fact, Senate Majority Leader is urging lawmakers to, quote, end these weeks of misery. But earlier today, on the Senate floor, no surprise, Democrats demanded an extension of Obamacare subsidies once again. Here's what Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said.
Democrats are offering a very simple compromise. Democrats are ready to clear the way to quickly pass a government funding bill that includes health care affordability. Leader Thune just needs to add a clean one-year extension of the ACA tax credits to the CR so that we can immediately address rising health care costs.
The Senate is set to recess next week, but with the shutdown causing travel chaos, lawmakers may stay through this weekend. In fact, Leader Thune has suggested he may make them stay through the entire weekend to keep working.
Well, thank you, Casey. Before I let you go, let me turn real quickly to some international news. As we have been watching, President Trump is working to expand the Abraham Accords. What's the latest that you're hearing on that?
Yeah, Jody, we do have an update on that, actually. President Trump announced that Kazakhstan has joined the Abraham Accords. Of course, the Abraham Accords are the U.S.-backed initiative that connects Israel with Arab and Muslim-majority nations. Now, this connection of joining of Kazakhstan is largely symbolic, since that nation has had good diplomatic relations with Israel since the early 90s. But it does signal a push for closer cooperation in trade, defense, energy, and technology as well. So President Trump, he called it a major step forward in building bridges across the world as he hosted a summit with Central Asian leaders yesterday at the White House. Meanwhile, tensions in Gaza remain high under this fragile ceasefire after hostilities and recent hostage releases. In fact, in Judea and Samaria, or so-called West Bank, they're facing new tensions and fears after prisoner releases to the Palestinian Authority are raising concerns about increased violence, Jody.
Well, Well, I tell you, here at the Family Research Council, we certainly believe that peace in that region, it's going to require Israel to assert their own sovereignty over the biblical heartland there, while at the same time continuing some diplomatic efforts like the Abraham Accords for sure. In fact, Chris Mitchell will be joining me a little bit later in the program from Jerusalem to give the latest as to what's happening in Israel. Casey, thank you so much for these updates. As always, we appreciate it a great deal.